At midnight, my own sister, shoved me down the stairs. She said I was confused, dramatic, maybe even dangerous, but they still handed her the house, the money, even the sympathy. I stayed silent, for years, until the day I hit play in court, and everything she built crumbled in seconds. But what she wrote to me from jail, that's what still haunts me. I was brushing my teeth, the minty sting numbing my tongue, when I heard the wind pick up outside. Winter always made the house feel like it was breathing, wood groaning under pressure, cold air whispering through gaps in the window panes. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, studying the tired eyes that stared back. My reflection looked older than 38. Maybe it was the years of biting my tongue, playing peacekeeper, being the daughter who never asked for much. Leona and I hadn't spoken much that evening, just the usual nods and dry exchanges. She'd been on edge for weeks, tapping her nails against countertops, slamming cabinets shut like punctuation marks in an argument only she could hear. I'd learned to stay out of her way when she got like that. Our house wasn't big, but it was quiet, the kind of silence that made small sounds feel too loud. The stairs creaked differently depending on who was walking. When I heard the heavier, deliberate steps around midnight, I knew it was Leona, and I knew she wasn't just heading to the kitchen for water. Some people carry knives in their smiles. Leona never smiled much, but when she did, it always felt like a warning. I was halfway down the stairs when I saw her at the top. "You really think you deserve it?" she asked, voice low but sharp as a slap. "That inheritance?" I stopped mid-step, my hand tightening around the wooden railing. "I didn't ask for anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's not even finalized." "It doesn't have to be. You were always their favorite, playing the good girl. Always quiet, always waiting for scraps like a stray dog." I swallowed hard. "Leona, please. Don't please me." Her feet moved closer to the top step. "You've taken enough from me." "I haven't taken." "You always act like you're above it all, but you're just like them. Manipulative. Selfish." I could feel the tension in my legs, ready to bolt, but I stood still. "I don't want to fight with you," I said, almost pleading. "We can talk." That's when it happened. She didn't scream. She didn't even raise her voice. She just stepped forward and shoved. The world spun sideways. My shoulder clipped the railing. My back bounced off the hardwood. Pain shot up my spine. My wrist twisted beneath me. Ribs cracked under impact. I remember the sound more than anything, my body hitting each stair like a dropped suitcase. Then silence. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Cold seeped into me from the floor. Somewhere above, Leona's shadow hovered, but I couldn't tell if she'd come down or walked away. She really did it, I thought. She pushed me. And then, nothing. The world returned in a flicker of buzzing light overhead. I blinked against the brightness, wincing as the sterile scent of antiseptic burned my nose. The room was too white, too still. "You're awake," a voice chirped. A nurse, early 30s, bright scrubs, too much perfume. She glanced at my chart. "Your sister's outside," she said. "She told us you tripped on the stairs." I said nothing. My tongue felt thick. The back of my head throbbed. I turned my face away. Tripped. Had I? Maybe it was an accident. Maybe I slipped on a blanket or missed a step. But that voice inside me, the one I'd trained to stay quiet, whispered, "No, she did it." Still, I didn't say it out loud. Not yet. The nurse adjusted my IV and gave me a soft pat on the hand. "She seemed really worried," she added. "You're lucky she found you." Was I? The door creaked open again an hour later. Leona stepped in like she owned the place. Hair brushed, makeup light, voice full of fake concern. Oh my God, Zoe! You scared me half to death. She glanced at the nurse, then back to me. I told them you've been so tired lately. It's no wonder you lost your balance. I didn't respond. I just stared at her, listening to the lie wrap itself around the room. You were walking around in your socks again, she continued, like this was just another clumsy mishap. You've got to be more careful, sis. I turned my head slightly, still silent. In my mind, I went back, years back. Leona standing over me after she'd accidentally slammed my fingers in the closet door. It's your fault, she'd said back then. You moved too fast. That memory used to feel small. Now it felt enormous. Later that day, Mom and Dad came. They stood awkwardly at the foot of the bed, murmuring sympathy, never really meeting my eyes. You really should be more careful on those stairs, Dad said. You know they're steep. They all wanted it to be an accident. It was easier that way. And I let them believe it, because silence was the only language this family truly understood. That night, under the hospital lights, I stared at the ceiling tiles. 1, 2, 3. If she wanted me dead, I thought, she'd have done it cleaner. I closed my eyes, but my mind didn't. It replayed the fall again. And again. She had looked me in the eyes before she did it. She knew. She meant it. And I knew something else now, too. This wouldn't end with me broken on a hospital bed. It would end when the truth came out. Nobody came to pick me up. The nurse wheeled me to the front doors with a smile too bright for a woman being discharged from a hospital alone. I nodded, said thanks, then stepped into the cold air and waited for the rideshare I ordered myself. I sat in the back seat, hand in a splint, ribs tight with every breath. The driver didn't speak, and I was grateful. I didn't have the words for small talk. What would I even say? That my sister tried to kill me? That I fell, but not the way they said I did. The ride home was quiet, just the hum of the road and the soft rattle of old plastic hanging from the rearview mirror. I stared out the window at houses with warm lights in the windows, front yards with snow still undisturbed. Families were inside, eating together, laughing, pretending well. When I stepped into the house, the air was cold, not in temperature, but in presence. No welcome, no warmth. The kitchen was dark, no scent of dinner, not even coffee. Leona was sitting at the dining table, casually flipping through a magazine like nothing had happened. She looked up. You're home early. We should have a talk. Everyone's coming over tomorrow. That's all she said, but I knew what she meant. With Leona, it was never just a talk. It was a verdict waiting to be read. I went upstairs without a word. My room smelled stale, like it hadn't been opened in days. I sat on the edge of the bed and peeled back the sleeve of my hoodie. The bruises were deep purple now, spreading like ink under my skin. I stared at them in the mirror for a long time. Not with fear, not even anger, just distance. I remembered being 12, coming home from school to find my backpack ripped open and my books soaked in the sink. Leona had said I left them there. She cried, told Mom I had lied again, and they believed her. They always did. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just like now. I opened a notebook and started writing. Not poetry, not feelings, just facts. What time I fell, what she said, where I landed, the angle of the steps, her text the next morning. Sorry for last night. Let's not talk about it again. Evidence. For myself, if no one else. There's a special kind of loneliness when your whole family tells you your reality is wrong. It doesn't scream. It just whispers. Constantly. Until you start to believe it. But not this time. I capped my pen and closed the notebook. Tomorrow, I will not let them rewrite what happened. The next day arrived with fake smiles and old perfume. The living room filled up quickly, My Aunt Marla, two cousins I hadn't spoken to since Christmas, a family friend from church whose name I couldn't remember. Leona played hostess, pouring coffee like she was throwing a brunch instead of planning a character assassination. "We're all worried about Zoe," she began, voice syrupy. "She's not herself lately." I opened my mouth, but Aunt Marla cut in. "She's been through a lot," she said, tilting her head toward me like I was some fragile doll on a shelf. "Maybe she needs a break from estate matters, just for her peace of mind." Someone else added, "Stress can cause all kinds of confusion. Maybe you don't remember everything clearly, Zoe." I sat there, surrounded by people who wore concern like a costume. "She's always been a bit sensitive," Leona added, eyes on her mug. "I think the fall just rattled her more than we realized." My jaw clenched, my ribs screamed, but I didn't interrupt. I waited. And when they finally fell quiet, I reached into my bag and pulled out the hospital report. I laid it flat on the table. "This is the medical assessment," I said. "The injuries don't match a simple fall. The angle, the force, none of it lines up." I unfolded a second paper. "And this," I said, holding it up, "is the message Leona sent me the morning after." I read it aloud. "Sorry for last night. Let's not talk about it again." No one spoke. Leona shifted in her seat, her lips parting slightly, but nothing came out. I looked at her, not with rage, not with fear, just clarity. "You may not believe me," I said, "but I'm done pretending it didn't happen." They didn't jump to my defense, but for the first time, they didn't defend her either. I went back upstairs after everyone left, alone again, but different this time. No shaking hands, no quiet, hoping someone would come knock on the door and say, "I believe you." I didn't need it anymore. I wasn't waiting to be rescued. I opened my laptop, stared at the blank search bar for a moment, then typed, "Family law attorney near me." That night, I couldn't sleep. My room was dim except for the single lamp on the bedside table. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the heater click and hiss. Every creak in the floor sounded like footsteps coming for me. I replayed the dinner meeting, how Leona's voice curved with concern, how every family member said my name like they were reading from a script. It felt cold. It felt planned. I sat up and reached for my notebook, organizing the notes I'd taken. Times, words, angles of incidents. I lit a candle, the flicker reminding me of childhood rituals when I'd pray for something to be true. Then something triggered me. A faint scent of vanilla, the way floorboards groaned exactly where I fell. The memory came back, uninvited. I was 9, hiding in the laundry hamper. Leona's voice split the night with rage, Mama's voice too. The ceramic mug flew, shattered near the sink, just missing my fingers. Leona's screech, Mama's shout that I was always in the way. The world went dark after that, locked in the basement until all I had was fear and her footsteps above on boards that didn't care how hard I trembled. Years later, I realized I had buried that night, convinced myself it was imagined, minimized. But the bruises under my skin remembered. The memories built themselves in silence. They spoke louder than I ever did. Back in the present, I sit before the mirror, my bruises still visible though fading. I whisper, "You've been hurting me for years." My reflection blurs as I speak past closed lips. I think about forgiveness, about Mama always saying, "Girls like us keep peace because the truth is dangerous." I pull the journal from the drawer, flipping pages I never showed, pages with sketches and words I scribbled in darkness. One entry stands out. Leona told me to lie about the bruises. I did. My throat tightens. Tears sneak out, but they are not tears of begging. They are relief. Truth feels heavier than silence, but lighter than alone. I dig through old boxes in the attic, photos of birthdays, class portraits, birthday parties. One photo shows a bruise on my arm no one asked about. Another, my smile was forced. I find an old VHS tape labeled 10th birthday. I hold it in my hands, thinking that tape knows more about me than all of them. I decide I'll speak to a therapist, not asking them to fix me, just to witness what's always been real. I line up the photos, the tape, the notes, saving them onto a USB I name Case Za Reclaiming Truth. My heart pounds. I feel fear, but also something fierce that won't let the fear silence me again. I say aloud for the first time in years, "They stole my voice so early I forgot I had one." I hold the few pieces of evidence in my hands and my name echoes in my mind. Zoe Ainsworth. I remember, not because I chose to, but because remembering chose me. I thought after naming the truth out loud, things might start making sense. But clarity has a way of showing you just how alone you really are. A few days after the family dinner, I called Charles, my older brother, my last shot at someone seeing past Leona's performance. He agreed to meet, though his voice was distant, said he could spare maybe 45 minutes if I came to him. I got to the cafe early, sat in the corner booth near the window, watched the people come and go, parents with toddlers, a teenager with headphones and a worn backpack, life happening around me while I tried to hold my own story together. When Charles finally arrived, he looked tired, eyes sunken, tie loosened, no hug, no "how are you feeling?" Just a glance at his phone before he sat down. I didn't waste time. I laid it out simply. What happened, what I remembered, what I uncovered. I spoke softly but clearly. Tried to frame it like something he could understand. Patterns, control, silence. His face didn't move much. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "I'm not saying you're lying, Zoe, but maybe you're just reading too much into things. Leona's always been intense, but I think you're personalizing stuff that's just family stress." I sat there staring at him, my coffee untouched, my fingers curled around the cup just to stay grounded. He thought he was being reasonable. He thought his tone was neutral, but neutrality in the face of truth is betrayal dressed in politeness. I nodded once, picked up my purse, and I left. Back home, I shut the door behind me harder than I meant to. The quiet didn't comfort me. It itched. I dropped the bag, walked straight to my office, and opened my laptop. The files I'd been collecting were neatly labeled, time-stamped, referenced. I scrolled through them like someone flipping a rosary, proof in place of prayer. I remembered how Leona had changed my intake report the night I fell. Told the nurse I was tired, not pushed, and it worked. No one asked questions. It hit me then. She didn't just manipulate people. She erased me. I wrote the email next, short, blunt. I didn't ask for understanding. I stated facts. I ended it with, "This will be the last time I ask for accountability before I take action." I hovered over send, then clicked. My chest tightened. But it wasn't fear. It was freedom. Later that week, Aunt Elaine reached out, said she wanted to host a dinner, bring everyone together, a healing space, she called it. I almost didn't go. But something in me needed to see it through, to stop wondering and start watching. The evening of the dinner, I wore black, not for drama, for armor. I arrived early, helped Elaine set out the plates. The house smelled like rosemary chicken and guilt. Leona showed up 20 minutes late, hair perfect, smile sharp. She kissed Elaine's cheek and gave me a glance like I was a paper cut she meant to ignore. Dinner started quiet, too quiet. Then the comments started. Leona turned to Aunt Elaine. "Zoe's been off lately. I think everything's just gotten to her. She's always been a little sensitive, but now—" Her voice trailed off like concern was choking her. I didn't raise my voice. I just set my fork down and said, "I'm done swallowing knives just to keep the peace." Silence. Forks paused. Glasses frozen mid-air. No one defended me, but for the first time, they didn't defend her either. After dinner, I didn't wait around. I stepped outside alone. Cold air cut through my sleeves, but I welcomed it. It kept me alert. I walked down the block, letting my breath fog out in slow exhales. I pulled out my phone and hit record. "This is Zoe," I said, "and this is my record." I spoke into that memo like I was telling my story to someone who'd believe me. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but someday. I ended with a quote I'd always remembered but never claimed. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I uploaded the file to a private archive I created, my voice now saved in a place no one could alter. That night, I stayed up past midnight, not anxious, focused. I started compiling the paperwork, medical records, photos, names, memories turned into data, truth into timelines. I wasn't hunting revenge. I wasn't hoping for closure. I was building a boundary. I whispered to myself, "This time, I'll be the storm." Morning light slipped through my window in pale streaks, but I sat in silence. I made black coffee, no sugar. My body still remembers the fall, my wrist stiff, my ribs tender. I pulled open my laptop and let it warm up. I thought, this letter has to be clean. No begging, no half-truths. I typed out the events, inheritance talk, the push, the hospital, the lies. I included doctor's notes, timestamps on text messages. I reviewed everything until nothing felt shaky. Then, I said what I needed. "I do not need you to apologize. I only want you to stop erasing me." I printed 2 copies. One I'll keep, one I'll leave where she'll see it. I drove to the bank where she works, public lobby, mid-morning. I walked in steady, trying not to tremble. Leona was behind a teller counter, suited, composed. She saw me. Surprise flickered. Then she smiled, politely cold. I handed her the envelope. She held it like I offered her a challenge. "You'll want to read this in private," I said. Her eyes tightened. I saw something behind the mask, a brief crack. She said low, "If you think you're scaring me, Zoe, you're wrong." My reply came slow, measured. "No, I'm warning you. That's different." She nodded, like she heard me, like she knew. That evening, I checked my phone. Unknown caller. Voicemail. Her voice. Hers. Calm. Threatening. "Careful what you dig up. You might bury yourself." One sentence. I played it twice, halting with each word. I saved it to the cloud and sat with it. This is the thing she never admits, her threats in shadow. Flashback came then. We were teenagers, arguing in the hallway. She spat, "If you ever make me the bad guy, I'll make sure no one believes you." That had cut deep then. Now I leaned into it. Truth doesn't come with applause anymore. It comes with proof. Late night, I sat alone in the office. Lamp on, files spread around me. I opened a program I'd downloaded, Chartmaker, timeline software she never expected I'd use. I mapped the past, each lie, each shift in what people believe. I uploaded her voice message, named the file Voice Threat 1. I copied photos of bruises, documents, timestamps. I deleted the local copy from my phone. "It's not security, it's exile," I whispered. "This is no longer about what she did. It's about what I'll do next." When dawn came, I was still awake. I watched my breath fog the glass of the kitchen window. Outside, lights flickered in neighbors' homes. I didn't tremble anymore. I leaned against the sill, journal open. I wrote a quote Oprah once said, "You get in life what you have the courage to ask for." I stared at the words. I wasn't asking. I was acting. I walked into work that Monday morning with a steady heartbeat. My arm throbbed, but it was adrenaline masking the pain. I parked in the back lot so Leona wouldn't see me arriving. I cinched my blazer, straightened my shoulders. Maybe things were turning. Maybe being quiet and gathering proof was the smartest move I ever made. The HR check-in was routine, just my direct supervisor and the HR manager. I presented a recent project update. They nodded. The conversation seemed regular until HR paused. "We've received an anonymous tip," the manager said. "They expressed concern over what they call erratic emotional behavior on your social media posts." I blinked. "Screenshots," she said. "Taken from comments I made, out of context." My chest tightened. They said I was going on administrative leave pending review. I asked for a copy of the complaint file. Calm. I didn't cry. I wanted them to see the pattern in front of me, not smoke, not rumor. Leona's hands were everywhere behind the scenes, her fingerprints disguised in concern. After work, I drove home with heavy silence pressing against me. I thought back to college, to job interviews where Leona slipped negative references, where I lost opportunities because someone claimed I couldn't handle pressure. My stomach knotted remembering the day I sat in a waiting room, hopeful, only to receive a call that they decided to move forward with another candidate. And I knew why. I understood how she had been erasing me for years. The jokes, the whispers, the behind-closed-door manipulations. I set up my small home office late that night. I pulled together all I had, screenshots, emails, medical notes. I called Ms. Ramirez, the attorney who promised to stand behind truth. I sent her the complaint, my timeline, names of witnesses from past moments. She said, "Don't fire back yet. Let them think they are ahead." That felt strategic. It felt right. I contacted an old coworker who once saw Leona coaching people to question my reliability. I backed up every voice memo, every photo onto encrypted drives. I whispered in the dark. "This time, I don't need to scream. I'll let the evidence speak." I didn't need to apologize. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I only wrapped myself in facts and documentation. I placed a yellow post-it above my desk. "No more explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you." It felt like a shield, not vanity. I knew I was reaching a line I'd never cross back. I woke with a weight in my chest, hands trembling as I rolled off the bed. The audio file sat on my phone last night, whispers of truth I edited until it felt like armor. Ms. Ramirez called before sunrise, voice steady. She said she had reviewed everything, voice memo, medical records, texts. We had enough. She said today was about showing up, not proving anything. I dressed in charcoal suit, shoes polished, no makeup. I looked in mirror and thought, I am no longer the frightened girl. Driving to the courthouse, I saw my breath mist in the air, fluffy clouds drifting over streetlights. Memories came unbidden. School plays when Leona stole the spotlight, birthday parties when she cracked jokes behind my back. I clenched the steering wheel. I kept telling myself, nothing to hide, everything to reveal. I arrived early, in the marble lobby, walls cold, echoes of feet. I felt judged before I even stood in front of anyone. Taking the stand felt like stepping into sunlight after years in shadow. I saw Leona across the aisle, poised, calm, someone used to people believing only what she chooses they believe. Her lawyer started early, about emotional instability, about how I've been erratic. My stomach twisted. I thought, this is the distraction. Then Ms. Ramirez stood. She held up the audio recording. Leona's voice, admitting she manipulated the medical record. The courtroom shifted. Some gasped. Others stared. I stayed still, letting that sound fill the room until it settled. It felt like the first time I was seen by more than four walls. I did not raise my voice. I spoke only when asked, steady, matching silence with truth. Judges, witnesses. All they could do was listen. When the recording played, I heard the betrayal in her words. felt shock, then clarity. Leona's face, bruise of guilt. I saw Aunt Marla drop her jaw, saw Charles's eyes flicker away, as if he couldn't meet mine. The room buzzed. I took a breath that shook. "This is what denial sounds like," I said. My voice didn't break. Spectators leaned forward. I saw Leona's lips quiver, the image she always projected crack. The truth, in that moment, revealed more than years of lies. Her attorney tried to discredit it, edited, manipulated, but I showed timestamps, witnesses, earlier reports flagged. The judge asked for a pause. I gripped my hands, tried not to tremble. Behind me, my lawyer and I locked eyes. I felt vindicated, raw but steady. I thought of Maya Angelou. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. And here, mine was no longer untold. When the verdict came, I felt relief and emptiness, all at once. The judge acknowledged serious evidence, ordered formal investigation into Leona's actions, not total justice, but the turn I'd been waiting for. I looked at my family in the gallery, faces strained, eyes wet. Leona remained silent. The air felt thick. I felt power, not loud, not triumphant in song, but quiet, rooted. And in that moment, I realized, the reckoning hasn't finished. But I have changed. I stand differently. I breathe differently. I no longer bend under their weight. I arrive at the courthouse mid-morning, suit pressed, hair neat. My evidence sat heavy in the briefcase at my side. Medical photographs, voice memos, the audio clip. Ms. Ramirez meets me in the hallway. She whispers, "They'll enter Exhibit A first, then the timeline." I nod. Appearances matter in justice. The marbled lobby echoes with whispered conversations, reporters, onlookers, family. Leona's team is padded in dark coats. I catch sight of her, calm, composed, a public mask. The gallery fills. My pulse picks up. I slide into a pew near the front, hands clasped. It feels like everyone is waiting. I tell myself, this moment is mine. The opening statements begin. The prosecutor outlines my story. The push, the hospital, the silencing. I watch Leona's attorney stand to spin it. He mentions emotional posts, calls me unstable. He gestures to screenshots. I feel the room shift, the eyes tilt toward me. Then Ms. Ramirez stands. She holds up the recording so the courtroom can't ignore it. The audio where Leona admits to altering my medical record, manipulating reports. Leona's composure flickers. There's a gasp. I stay silent. The evidence speaks. I see the judge lean forward. The weight in the room moves. I feel a surge, vindication mixing with disbelief. Justice feels raw. Leona's attorney calls a character witness. Someone concerned for me, but really someone who claims I've always overreacted. My hands tighten around the bench. I breathe slowly. Then Marla rises. She recounts small moments, how Leona dismissed my injuries, told people I saw things that weren't there, how friends heard me cry in the dark. Then a medical expert testifies. Injury patterns inconsistent with a simple slip, from the angle of bruises, from how the body fell. Leona's lawyer tries to interrupt. "You're painting a picture," he says. I stand firm. I don't flinch. Every insult thrown is soaked up and cataloged. I think sensitivity isn't weakness. Silence in response to gaslighting is not strength. The judge finally turns toward me and says I may address the court. I rise, voice steady. Every item here isn't about revenge. It's about what I was forced to endure. I replay the voice memo where Leona admits to altering documents. The room goes quiet. The gallery leans in. Leona's lips part, but no words come. I feel time slow. Every head turns, every ear listens. My throat feels raw, but I speak clear. This truth was buried long before this day. I describe each piece of evidence. I don't soften. I don't beg. The judge watches. Jurors shuffle. The tension is thick. When the verdict comes, the judge acknowledges serious evidence, orders a formal investigation into Leona's actions. The courtroom exhales. Family faces in the gallery turn. Some eyes mist. Leona's expression cracks, just a sliver. I feel power, muted, but real. Tears burn in my eyes. I realize for the first time here, I am believed. I am seen. And though this doesn't erase the past, it changes what comes next. Days after the court decision, I came home to silence. No TV, lights low, windows open to let the cold wind in. I stood in the foyer, letting cold air brush my face. The house felt like it was waiting, holding its breath. Justice is satisfying, but it doesn't erase pain. I carry scars where smiles used to be. I open my journal, pen hovering. Childhood memories drift. Treehouse secrets, whispered apologies that never came, birthdays when I felt invisible. I write, forgiveness, maybe not for her, but for myself. I close the journal. My shoulders relax for the first time in years. I make tea. I let the warmth spread inside me. I pressed the sleeve of my cardigan and went to therapy. My therapist asked me, what would I say to Leona if she truly listened? I imagined, your apology is late. You broke more than my bones. You broke what we could have been. Then the letter came. Leona, in jail, writing unfiltered words. It said, I am sorry. I broke more than your bones. I broke what we could have been. Tears came, not for what I lost, but for what never was. I read the lines until they blurred, until I realized I didn't need her apology to exist. I started volunteering with a support group, women who understand sibling wounds. One night, I shared my story, not for pity, but for perspective. A woman said, you speak like someone who's walked through fire. I smiled, because I have. My family begins to shift. Some reach out, not all. A cousin sends a text. I had no idea. Another aunt calls just to check on me. Closure isn't one event. It's something I decide each morning when I get up, when I look in the mirror and choose my truth. Returning to my childhood home felt strange. I walked room by room, letting memories settle like dust. I found a photo, me and Leona in front of the treehouse, frozen smiles. I taped it inside the notebook I'm writing. Down the stairs, up again. I painted the living room a soft sage, cleared out the heavy curtains, changed the walls, not erasing, rewriting what these walls mean. I made coffee in the kitchen. I sat in that same chair I always felt small in and held the mug, letting sunlight fall on the table. I felt, not joy, but something steadier, peace. Walking with Marla beside the lake, evening air cool, water lapping at reeds. She asked, what now? I looked at the horizon. I said, now I live, fully. When you're finally heard, you stop screaming in your head.